and Miller Lite at Big Louie's Bar and Grill in Crystal tonight from 5 to 7. Stop by to register for a chance to win a spot in the Vikings Foundation Golf Tournament. Get the full details now at KFAN.com. Keyword golf.
She's fast-paced, she's action-packed, she's controversial. That's the Common Man program, always has been and always will be. Let's get back to reality. Let's do a little sports. It's time now for 5, 3, 4.
Time now for 5 questions. Well, actually 3, but 5 sounds like more than 4. Question number 1.
It's now time to take an in-depth look at the welfare of the Wolves.
I think you doubted him, Mr. Hockey Community.
The Wolves won 125-110 last night in Charlotte. Both Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards scored 29 points. Julius Randle was 1 point from a triple-double, tallying 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. The Wolves shot 49% from the field, 43% from three-point range, and they only had 6 turnovers, all despite playing their 5th game in 7 days in their 4th different time zone, and they did it without Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert. Common, what sticks out to you from last night's Wolves win?
That time zone changes, back-to-back-to-back-to-backs, circadian rhythms, elevation change is almost completely meaningless if a team puts their best foot forward, puts their mind to it, and doesn't dog it. That's what happens. Doesn't hurt that you're playing a terrible team in a terrible city with terrible fans in a terrible stadium either. I'll tip my cap to them. But here's what I'll say: they should have been doing this earlier. See, this is where people don't believe. I think the people that do employ the esoteric approach, or at least are starting to learn of it and understand what it means, they do know that teams can turn it on and turn it off when they want. And so now the Wolves, and they're doing it at the right time. I will give them that credit. I just feel bad for the ticket buyers who actually buy tickets to go to a game and then watch a team like Philadelphia the other night, 6 guys out. Now, I think Embiid was legitimate. He is out for the year. I think like 3 of their other guys, they were just resting them. They weren't injuries, and maybe a couple of other guys did have injuries. But it's always a blend like that. Guys are getting the load management stuff, and teams aren't putting forth their best effort. You just know when they're not. And it's like, okay, now when you're fighting for better seeding, which is what the Wolves are trying to do right now. I mean, they're trying to get into, for sure, the top 6, and they'd like to, if they could. I don't know if they could push 5 or 4. I don't think they can. Maybe so. Depends on what teams do above them. But so now they're playing like they're supposed to be playing. They are healthier. I mean, they're still missing Gobert, but this is good. We'll see how it works out. I would expect them to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to.
3 games back of the 5th spot. But the Houston Rockets have lost 3 in a row.
There you go. So we'll see. It will be interesting. I'm not sure. I still don't think this team is as good as last year's team. Rosen thinks the roster is much deeper. Maybe it is. The young guys that they did draft, and then the Jalen Clark kid. I don't know when did we. I don't know if we drafted him or picked him up as a side piece on a trade, but he's played well. Dilly's played pretty well when he has.
Dilly.
Yeah, and then is it Shannon Jr.? Is that who it is? He's So we've got guys playing well. Randall's a quality player. He's now back healthy. When we get Gobert back, if Ant can stop from getting technicals and Conley can pitch in when he needs to, and we got Nas, and I would say the Wolves are a lot like the Fan was back when PA all those years ago said we're strong right now. So that's where I would think we are.
Question number 2. It's time now for the lowdown in Dinkytown.
The Gophers men's basketball team lost to number 12 Wisconsin 74-67 last night at the Barn. Gophers now 7-12 in the Big Ten with just 1 game remaining. Just 2-8 at home this season. Senior Brennan Rigsby had a team high 18 points for your Gophers. Common, your thoughts on last night's game, and why have the Gophers been so bad at the Barn this year?
Well, I don't think it's back-to-back. It ain't travel. It's not time zone change. It's not circadian rhythm. My guess is they're just an okay club at best, and they're playing better competition, teams that are better. They're in a tough spot there. We've talked about this, Tenneby. It's like Rosen mentioned he was at Dunkers, and he had Bobby Jackson and John Thomas of that 1997 team. That was the team that went to the Final Four. It was the best Gopher basketball team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But then they had the academic scandal. Doesn't take away what they did on the floor, though. The argument, of course, that argument falls on deaf ears because you say, yeah, but if those they did on the court, they got to the Final Four, but some of those players, it sounds like, would not have been eligible to play because they weren't doing their schoolwork. And maybe that happens everywhere, and I'm sure it does. I don't know how widespread it is. I don't know how many. If it's every player on every team that is accused of academic fraud, or if it's just a couple of players here and there. But truth of the matter is, some of those guys probably wouldn't have been eligible. But since then, we've had some teams make it to the tournament. I don't think we've never had a Sweet 16 since then, have we? I think we maybe have gotten out of the first round, got to 32 and got dumped, but we've never made a run. And,
no.
And then it goes back to, now it's nil. I don't know how much the barn has to do with it. Old school guy like me, I think it would be cool to play at the barn if I was a kid. But, do the 18, 19-year-old kids nowadays think that's a cool
They don't have the same nostalgia of that place.
No, they're like, what, this floor, it's raised. What is this? And the locker room is small and tiny. And then with nil and, I've said this so many times. When you're a McDonald's, Culver's, or Five Guys All-American, where are you going? You're going to the basketball schools. They call them helmet schools in football. I don't know what they call them in basketball, but those guys generally go there. And then a lot of the best players are ones and dones anyway. So it's tough. I don't know if the Gophers basketball program, I don't think it's coaching. I don't know enough about the X's and O's that they're doing over at the U. I don't think it's Ben's fault. And this is not to say that Ben might get out coach sometimes. I don't know, but I'm just saying I think there's so many different tentacles to it that it's going to be hard for I think for the team to ever be one of those top Big Ten type of schools.
Question number 3, and now it's time to go between the pipes.
Love it.
Class AA Boys State High School hockey tournament underway at XL Intercenter. First game is in the books. Stillwater beat Andover by a score of 5-0. They were the 2 seed, Andover the 7 seed. The next game will be number 3 seed St. Thomas Academy versus number 6 Shakopee. Tonight at 6 o'clock, you get number 1 Moorhead versus number 8 Lakeville South. And then the final game tonight is number 4 Rogers versus number 5 Edina. Common, who are you cheering for in the AA state tournament?
Do you think Shakopee can shock the world?
Shocking.
Affordable. I guess I really don't, but I guess I'll go with Abbott, right? Chad Abbott, Coroner's Office Program Director. That's his school. He coaches there. Kids go there, I think. His son did. Tommy, I think, went there. Tommy's still in school, I think. Tommy should be going to St. Thomas if he's not. How old is Tommy now? Do we know? Do we have any indication? Do you know how old his boy is?
I thought you said Tommy as in Tommy Olson.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah.
TJ?
But anyway, long story short, otherwise I would be, the sentimentalist in me. By the way, I think I've told you I'm becoming a minimalist rather than a sentimentalist. But I would like to see Moorhead because they've been down here so many times and they go back without a trophy. So why not? Why not Moorhead? Why not now? So that's who I would. But I guess I'll let the pucks fall where they may.
Could do a quickie.
Yes, please.
Question number 3.
It's now time to take an in-depth look at the welfare of the Wolves.
Brian Windhorst of ESPN was on Get Up this morning.
Get up.
And he thinks the Timberwolves are a team to watch for with Kevin Durant this summer.
Where is KD?
Another small market team to watch. Minnesota
Not a
Timberwolves,
small
which
market.
Ant Edwards and KD, very tight connection, also from the Olympics. The Timberwolves tried to pull off a crazy trade at the deadline for KD. Look for them to revisit those talks this summer.
Okay, I like that. And
Common percent chance that Durantula is a Timberwolf this summer.
I would call the show Get Up and Get Her Done, is what I would call it. Who was the comic that said Get Her Done?
I can picture him right now.
It reminds me of Meat Sauce, because Meat Sauce is, like Get Her Done guys, one of the
Yeah.
pioneers of comedy. I don't know. Aren't we like double, triple, four times over the apron and all that? So I don't know what will be available to them. And
Well, you just got to go cash in, cash out, cash in, cash out.
right. I just don't know if we're willing to go cash in, cash out. But if the deal does get indeed approved, A-Rod and Lori buying the club, and they got the Bloomberg character in the mix, and he's got hundreds of millions. And remember, Lori said he's flush with cash. He's never been better. So maybe they don't mind going over this apron or that apron and getting them. I know there's ways around it. I guess you can trade other people, release other people. I leave the salary cap and economics of basketball to others, but I don't know. I mean, Ant really likes him, right? So maybe they do it. I don't know. The percentage of chance, I'd say, I'll give you a 30. For no other reason, that's the first number that came to my head.
And that's it
Larry
for
the Cable
today's
Guy.
edition
Yes.
of 5
Larry.
questions. Well, actually, 3 questions, but 5 sounds like more than 4.
We'll pause. We'll return. More controversial Vikings news other side of the break. Common Man program on the Fan.
Don't let this one get away. The Northwest Sports Show, March 13th through the 16th at the Minneapolis Convention Center. Find the newest in fishing and outdoor gear, boats, RVs, travel, power sports, and more. There's no better time to try, buy, and save. And make sure to join 9 to noon's Nordo on Friday the 14th from 4 to 6 p.m. for the Friday night fish fry. Get all the details now at KFAN.com keyword calendar.
Let's get her done. I might start doing that in my comedy thing, where like I'll deliver a punchline and then I'll go get her done. Part of my persona.
You could also do, you might be a redneck if.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And then you know what I'll do? It's I just came up with this one. So then at the end of the show, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here today. Thank you, 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 thank you. He's thanking each and every one of them. Steve Martin, copyright Steve Martin, 1977, Sunset Strip, 77, Sunset Strip. Twins are destroying the New York Yankees right now, Genevieve. And I'm not sure if
We're sending a message to them, aren't we?
I think we are. I think that's what we're doing. We're sending them a message, and it's going to reverberate all across not only the American League, but the National League as well. We got 6 runs off some guy named, I don't know, I just looked at the box score, G. Cole for the Yankees. Who's that? G. Cole.
Sounds like a rapper.
Yeah, so I don't know. So we got 6 runs off some guy named Cole, probably some youngster that's trying to make the club. You know, he's coming up from their AA squad, right? He had some success at Poughkeepsie last year on AA, and they're trying him with the big club. So just because you get 6 runs off a guy named G. Cole in exhibition baseball don't mean none. But the Polat pocket protectors are back at it. We should probably get LaBelle on next week if he'll agree. Here's his headline of his piece today. No reason to be skeptical of the Twins' optimism at camp. No reason at all. Do you think he believes that, or do you think he knows that his audience,
yeah.
his readership, the people that read his column, they want to hear that from him? Because he can't possibly believe what he's writing here, does he? Subheadline says, from its trio of stars finally healthy to a bullpen among the best in baseball, the Twins roster is good enough to win a division title. That's the other problem. Division titles, they're giving them away at Home Depot, right? It's like, okay, so you won a division title. We've been there. We've done that before. But that's not, to me, that's great. And depending upon where you are as a fan. We talk about it all the time, fan. There's the hardcores to the people that are casuals and everybody in between. For the casuals, it would be fine to win a division. Hey, we won the division. Wasn't that nice? Oh, we just couldn't beat those damn Yankees. It's all that money. And then they're brainwashed by, well, it's all because they don't have as much money and we're a small market. There should be revenue sharing. And so they take their angst out. Instead of taking their angst out at the poll lads and the ownership for not spending more money in a non-salary cap sport with no floor, no ceiling, they'll take it out on the evil Yankees and the evil Dodgers and the evil Metropolitans. So, yeah, I mean, we talked about it yesterday. Right now, the Twins, most of the national media that pays closer attention to Major League Baseball than you and I do, I think they're called, Barrero, I think, calls them the seam heads, I think is their name, because baseball has seam on them. The seam heads are picking Twins to win. And I understand Rosen, I think, he didn't understand why, I think is what he said yesterday. And I told him, well, I'll tell you why. Because they have almost the entire roster coming back, and that roster of last year had the team in position to win the division until they collapsed in the last month of the year, a month and a half. They were at that point where it was like 95% chance of winning the division or qualifying for the playoffs, and they went in the tank. And so if you bring back most of that roster, and I don't think that, even though the American League Central was strong last year as far as playoff participants, not only did we have the division winner represent the division in postseason play, but two of the wild cards were from the Central. It was Detroit and Kansas City as wild cards. In Cleveland, the Guardians were the division winner. And my guess is those teams will probably be strong. Again, I don't know what kind of changes they've made. I'm sure they had subtractions and additions. Probably their core players are probably back. So it should be a great division. I like it. If I'm going to pay attention to baseball, I don't really like. I mean, if there's going to be a runaway in the division, you want your team doing the running, and you don't want to be the one chasing. So that would be great. But if we make postseason play, and I know the chip and a chair and a chance, and that's great. But my guess is our chances won't be very good, because it'll be one of those things we're playing against those teams that have decided, yeah, we have more money to spend and we're going to spend it. And, we talked about the Mets. I don't know if all of that money we talked about the owner. There's his name, Cohen, the guy that owns the Mets. Yeah. Yes. That stat was something like he spent more money this year or the last 4 years than three Major League Baseball teams have spent over that same period of time. He's not won at all, but he's trying. If I'm a fan, I'm appreciative of that. And is that all money that he's spending that's completely generated from ticket sales and local broadcast rights? Is all of that? If it is, more, that's great for them. And you can say it's unfair, right? That there should be more profit sharing than there is. Because, we talked about this a couple of years ago. I remember reading that every team in baseball gets like a $100 million check given to them by MLB because of the national broadcast rights. Right away, they get $100 million. We're spending $145 this year. That means the poll ads are only taking $45 out of their pocket. And how much are they getting from ticket sales? And I know they don't get a TV deal anymore, but they used to get a TV deal that was pretty good. My guess is, at least as far as the big club goes, as far as payroll, I know there's other expenses. You got your minor league club, and you got your people that work in the office, right? You just, the ushers and, people that, are pushing pencils inside the bookkeepers and all those people you're paying money. But you're already got your roster paid for by Major League Baseball. It's already in the books for the most part. So if you don't want to play with the big boys, get out. And that's what the poll has finally decided to do. They're going to get out. But I don't know.
Are they, though? It's gotten a little silent in that regard. Remember the reports were, hey, we're expecting to have this team sold by the beginning of the season?
Yes.
Well, we're just a couple of weeks away from that now. Yeah. And it seems like haven't heard anything since basically then the Ishbia brothers kind of dropping out.
So, yeah, and so Lavelle writes, Buxton, Correa, and Lewis are all healthy and happy. Matt Wallner is going to try as a leadoff hitter. Justin Topa is a baseball card collector. That was one of their little feature pieces. One of those little what do we like to call them? Feel good pieces. Every reliever seems to be throwing 95 mile per hour and above the nasty complimentary pitches. Are we ever going to stop saying nasty?
Filthy.
Oh, yeah, it's either nasty or filthy, isn't it? I wonder if we'll ever get past using those. But anyways, I haven't read the entire piece, but I don't think I feel like you could say, yeah, there's no reason to be skeptical of the Twins' optimism at camp, but, you know, the old saying tend to be, especially in baseball, is hope springs eternal. Every club right now, except maybe the dregs of the league, right? The ones that really know they're a terrible team in a terrible city, those are a handful of those. The other ones are all telling a story to the local media down either in the Cactus League or the Grapefruit League. They're telling the assembled media, I like how our team looks right now. I think we're going to really make some big strides this year. We got a couple of young kids that we think are going to be good. We stay healthy. I think we got a chance to make a run at a division title or a wild card. And some of them know that's really not the truth, but they have to say that in an attempt to sell tickets and keep relevant in that city. And that's great. If the Twins win the division, I'm more interested in what happens postseason. Same with the Wild. You know, the Wolves they've set expectations so high. You know, I'm not going to pat them on the head for winning last night. You're going to make the playoffs. Let's see, can you make another run? You got to the Western Conference Finals last year. Let's take that next step. Wild need to take another step as well. Tennessee will tell us if they're going to as we get into Wild today.
Yeah, this is Wild Today brought to you by Jim Beam, the official bourbon of the Minnesota Wild. Wild are off again today before taking on the Canucks tomorrow night in Vancouver. The Canucks beat the Anaheim Ducks 3-2 last night in Vancouver. The Canucks currently hold the 9th spot in the Western Conference. They're tied in points with the second wild card team, the Calgary Flames, with 67 points. And they are separated from the Wild by 9 points in the standings. Wild and Canucks tomorrow night at 9 p.m. in Vancouver. Of course, the NHL trade deadline is tomorrow as well. That was Wild Today, brought to you by Jim Beam, a crowd pleaser since 1795. Down to Tom's Watch Bar in Minneapolis this Friday, enjoying the Power Trips and Meat Sauce for a KFAN Wolves watch party. We'll have Timberwolves versus Heat live on the big screens, delicious food and drinks, and your chance to secure exclusive KFAN swag and a chance to qualify for Wolves tickets later this season. Get all the details now at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Common here, a couple 13-14 pass. You may have heard during that last commercial break, which there were all sorts of wonderful advertising partners here at KFAN, specifically and in general iHeartMedia. It also included WSH, Wells, Schluter, Hansen and Company, Tax Accounting. They're one of my advertising partners now. They provide professional tax, accounting, bookkeeping, and consulting services. And what's cool is their pledge is to save you more tax dollars per year than they charge you for their work. That's a win-win for everybody, don't you think? So you can schedule a free consultation at wellstax.com. That's wellstax.com. And we just want to welcome them to the program and to KFAN and iHeart. And hopefully we'll have a very long and prosperous relationship. That's wellstax.com, WSH. We're about ready to start, Tennessee. It's Shakopee. It's tradition. They announce every player. They skate toward the camera guy, give a little spray of ice. They've all got the hockey hair.
Yeah.
And they all say hi to mom. Right?
Never dad.
Never dad. And that's okay. I don't think dad cares. I think you need to say hi to your mom. So they're doing that. Shakopee will be taking on St. Thomas Academy, the Sabres versus the Cadets. And we'll duck into that game a little bit later. We've had one game so far today. The early one, Stillwater, was it 5-0? Did you say that was the final? They defeated Andy. So Andy's out, and Stillwater advances to the semis. You know who I'd like probably more than anybody this time of year, Tennessee? Well, it's a couple of people, to be honest with you. They both work for the Fish Wrap Factory, West Side, and that would include my friends Andrew Kramer and Ben Gessling, because they do so much of the prep work for me. They have a piece today. Did it come out today or maybe it was late last night? Looked like it was 6 o'clock this morning By the way, happy birthday to my lovely wife, Potato. It's her birthday today. I'm taking her out to dinner tonight. Left her a card and some flowers earlier today, and so it's the kind of things. It's kind of things a hubby does. Hubba. So they wrote a piece, NFL free agency preview, how the Vikings should fill their biggest needs on defense, and they both list several players that they would think would be a good fit with the Vikings. And I guess what I could do, Tenneby, is I could have just pretended like Mark Rosen. I could have just pretend that I knew these players on my own and highly recommend them. I know all the names, but I don't know how good they are. I do know that Gessling thinks in the secondary he likes Carlton Davis, not Carlton Davis the first, not Carlton Davis the second, but Carlton Davis the third. He played for Detroit last year, got injured late. Matter of fact, I think he missed the postseason game because I think like the game before he broke his arm or something, or maybe he broke it during the game. I don't recall. But he's got talent. He's a good player. I was reading that I don't think just Gessling is guessing, pardon the pun. I think there would be some interest from the Vikings there. And then Kramer suggests DJ Reed from the Jets. Do you know much about DJ Reed of the Jets, Tennessee?
Just the name.
Just the name. He should get, it says here that he should get more than $11 million annually that he just earned with the Jets. That's the cost of adding a set and forget corner. Oh, set and forget. I'd not heard that phrase before. Just set and forget. You don't even need to think about it again if you sign DJ Reed, who's apparently a very talented defensive back. Tennessee, I'm not sure he's only 5'9", so, a little short for a corner, or at least what you would want a corner to be. But here's what I like about him, Tennessee. He's produced just as much as the taller guys. 42 deflections since 2021, and I broke down each and every deflection the other night. Just watched each one. There was a tape of them. So yeah, and again, either guy would fit the bill for the purple. I should mention that Emily, and is it Leiker or Leaker? She just started working for the Fish Wrap Factory. I believe it was during the Vikings football season. She covers Vikings football as well. She likes Milt Williams, defensive tackle for the Eagles. We talked quite a bit about him yesterday, mostly because, when Milt, it doesn't matter how much you play Wilt. He's like one of those every down players. Milt won't wilt.
No, I like how he's built.
And, he's built like a stilt. He's tall and rangy.
Is he from Vanderbilt?
Brilliant. I haven't thought of that one. All I know is if you sign him, no matter how much money it is, you'll feel no guilt. Right?
It increases your chances of playing in the big game, the tilt.
Yeah.
The big tilt.
It does all that. So anyway, and Mark Craig, forgot Mark Craig, who writes football, National Football League. He also votes for the Hall of Fame too, but he writes football and Vikings for the Fish Wrap Factory. Byron Murphy Jr., he'd like to re-sign Byron. And, it says here, according to Spotrac, Murphy's looking for a $22.1 million average on a 4-year, $88.1 million deal. Now, Craig says that's a lot, but doing this deal is not risky. And not doing the deal means the Vikings, dangerously thin at corner, will have to take big gambles on probably 2 other free agent cornerbacks, neither of whom are likely to be as young or as good as Murphy. And that does make sense. And his numbers are good. He's a talented kid. And there is something to be said now. So but the Vikings, they ain't got a lot of money. They actually have quite a bit of money under the salary cap. And there's always something to be said, about when you have a known quantity that's played in the system. My guess is B-Flow loves him. KOC loves him. He probably likes playing here. it's almost like you think too hard if you're going to try to nickel and dime every salary cap dollar, where you're actually, you got it, you got your ledger up and you got your additions and subtractions and you're trying to get, I'd like to get more players under contract. In other words, let's say what are the Vikings, like $60 million of cap money? We want to spend that $60 million over, we want to give it to X amount of players. But we could also add 2 players if we take somebody that's a little cheaper. Well, then, like you say, you know Carlton Davis from the film, but you've never worked with him. I kind of like the idea. I think Murphy would be a good re-signing, right?
Yeah, and it depends on what they think of Mekhi Blackman, who is hurt. But you have a potential, if they think highly of him, you potentially have a corner still on his kind of rookie contract that you can get for cheap. And it's the old. Well, if you spend money on some more pass rushers, including your interior defensive line, then your cornerbacks don't need to be out there as long defending. So you can work both sides of that. Oh, we already got a goal.
Oh.
First shift.
Cadets are on the board, Tenneby. Ruda. R-U-D-H. Rudd. He scores the goal. St. Thomas Academy up 1, Zippo.
Is the D silent or is the H silent?
Oh,
R-U-D-H.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe it's Ruda. Whatever it is, he's a winner. He just scored right now. This is here's another NFL note for you, Tenneby. We just talked about how I think, did I read this right? Only 2 teams chized players this year. Only 2 teams put a chize tag.
Yeah.
And one of them was T. Higgins.
Yes.
If you'll remember, the Vikings, the speculation, obviously they could have. Last couple of weeks, people were debated, there's plenty of speculation. Will they tag Sam Darnold, lock him in for at least a year at $41 million? Will they let him go via free agency? Would they tag or trade him? I just see a story on CBS Sports that says, this is by Brian DiArdo. Sorry, I cleared my throat on the air. Brian DiArdo, who writes football for CBS Sports. It says, T. Higgins trade rumors. Multiple teams have called Bengals about wide receivers availability. Story goes on to say, despite a growing number of talented wideouts becoming available, there are at least a few NFL teams that are trying to acquire Bengals wideout T. Higgins. Multiple teams have contacted the Bengals about the availability of Higgins after the team franchise tagged him for a second straight year. Cincinnati tagged Higgins with the intent of continuing to work toward a long-term deal for the veteran wideout, who has emerged as arguably the NFL's top number 2 receiver during his time with the Bengals. Bengals have until 4 o'clock Eastern time on July 15th to come to terms with Higgins on a long-term contract, or he'll earn $26.2 million in 2025. And so, the Bengals are sitting in a pretty good spot then, right? Now, I don't know if does a franchise, for a guy that's tagged, the one thing he has going in his favor, right, is he could tell whatever team he's going to be traded to, I'm not signing a long-term deal with you, right? That's the one piece of leverage if a player really doesn't want to be, because some people think the tag thing can be.
Though he did get tagged a second time.
Yeah.
So it's 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, that happened with Cousins in Washington.
Right.
Now he ended up leaving them, to your point.
Right. And so that's where, a player, if I understand it correctly, maybe someone, me, I'm not paying as close attention as I once did to NFL rules and regulations. But I think that, the player, just because you trade him doesn't mean he has to sign a long-term deal. He could tell the team, like, let's say they wanted to trade him to the Carolina Panthers. He could say, not over my dead body am I signing a long-term deal with you, and then why would Carolina want to have him?
Yeah.
Right? So you can kind of
dictate where you want to go.
Dictate where you want to go. I never really feel bad for a guy that gets franchised, just because it's not like you're getting kicked to the curb. You're going to make, is it top 5 salary in the league?
Yeah,
right?
around that, yeah.
Yes, you're going to make really good money regardless. But the Bengals put themselves in a nice position.
Well, that $26 million ain't going to get them to the grave. Fool.
No, that's for sure. But the Bengals put themselves in a fairly nice position. Then again, T. Higgins does have that hammer, but at the same time, now it's like, well, we can keep them. We seem like we're happy. They've been trying to work out a long-term deal. Or, you know what? Maybe T wants to leave. And if he does want to leave or isn't opposed to it, well, we could get something valuable in return for them.
I just don't know how they're going to make it work moving forward, because Joe Burrow makes a lot. He's in, the $50 million club. Jamar Chase, any day now, could become the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League. And then, so now if you commit a long-term to T. Higgins, who's going to make him, 26 this year?
Yeah.
That's now 3 guys, and they're good. You could argue they're as good as any quarterback, 2 wide receiver combo in the National Football League. But then you don't have the resources. You better be hitting on draft picks when it comes to offensive linemen, because they haven't been able to block for Joe Burrow in recent years.
Well,
nor was their defense very good last year.
We know all about smoke screens and subterfuge. The story says that, Cincinnati tagged Higgins with the intent of continuing to work toward a long-term deal. Do they really intend to work a long-term deal because of what you just said, because of salary cap ramifications and limitations?
Maybe they will end up trading him.
Well, that's it. And so, but their smoke
trying to get something in return.
Their smoke screen is, no, we want to sign him to a long-term deal. No, that's what we want to do. So in other words, if you want to pry him away from us, you better come up with a pretty good draft pick package. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. Let me ask you this. They say T. Higgins best number 2 wide receiver in pro football, arguably, right? He'd be number 1 on a lot of clubs, though, right? Or not? Not necessarily. If you went through all teams.
I think there are teams he would be number 1. I don't know if I'd say a lot.
Okay.
Man, I'd have to go through every single National Football League team.
There would be a handful of teams.
I mean, he'd be the number 1 wide receiver on the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
Minnesota, Detroit, no. Chicago, maybe him and DJ Moore are in the same boat. San Francisco, depending on what you think of Brandon Ayuk, he could be number 1 there.
Yeah.
Rams, no. I'd take Puka Nacua. Seattle, well, once they lose DK Metcalf, T. Higgins could be a number 1 there. Though Jackson Smith and Jigba had a very good year as a second-year player out of Ohio State this year for them.
Jets with Devontae. Oh, that's right.
Well, they got Garrett Wilson, but he barely touched the ball this year because him and Aaron Rodgers don't like each other very much, apparently. I mean, I'm guessing there's probably maybe 10-ish teams in the National Football League, 10, 12, that maybe T. Higgins would be your number 1 wide receiver.
So either way, it sounds like the Bengals are in a pretty good spot, and so is T. Higgins. It's nice to be T. Higgins. Hey, you're guaranteed whatever the top 5 salary is for wide receiver. You're playing on a team where I know last year
should still put up numbers.
They made a deep run. They had a nice run late in the year. Just wasn't good enough. They got off to such a slow start. It was late in the year. Weren't the Bengals playing as good as anybody late?
Their offense was. I mean, Joe Burrow arguably put up MVP numbers last year. You could argue he played as good as anybody. It's just their defense was so atrocious that the record wasn't very good.
So it's good to be T. Higgins because you're going to get a boatload of money either way, and you are playing for a team you got a great quarterback throwing the ball to you. So to your point, you can still post some pretty good numbers.
There's worse places to be.
And when the other guy on the other side of the line who's you're wide right, he's wide left, is Jamar Chase, you're going to get a lot of single coverage too. That's why it's cool to be Addison, right? They're going to double up on Jets. Well, that's going to leave. There are going to be a lot more balls coming his way. So, it's a pretty good deal. But that's the advantage of tagging a guy. And the Vikings just decided not to. And I don't think the Vikings have publicly explained why they didn't. We know the different reasons why, but which one specifically? Did they have really no interest in bringing him back at all at $41 million? They want to go through with J.J. McCarthy. They didn't want to get, trade for him. And then fine, maybe the market is as thin as the quarterback market is. Maybe there are a lot of other teams that are thinking the way the Vikings might be thinking, that after that game against Detroit specifically and a little bit of the Rams game, maybe he's not the guy. So you can't get as much for him as you would hope to get for him. And what if you end up getting stuck with him and you don't really want him for $41 million because you want to go to JJ, but it goes, if you do, or maybe it's what KOC said almost right after the year ended, where he said, Sam has earned an opportunity to test free agency. And I'd like to think that's what they did. They wanted to say, look, we don't want to go through all these shenanigans and such like that and have people jumping through hoops and have to, tag them with the idea of maybe annoying him. And there's still the possibility, I think it's unlikely, Sam could sign for a hometown discount that would be very palatable to the Purple, because I do believe that KOC is highly regarded in the quarterback community as a guy that can milk the most out of a guy, and Darnold would be a prime example. I still think maybe, I don't know, I think while KOC certainly deserves his fair share of the credit, I think you got a pretty good wide receiver in JJ. You have I think the year spent in San Francisco riding the bench, watching that certainly helped him. And then you got to give the player himself some credit too. So, but people do say that Danny Jones, Danny Dimes, my guess is the reason he wanted to come here is because he wanted to work under KOC and see if KOC could do for him what he did for Sam Darnold. So it's so maybe
it's a quarterback destination.
Yeah,
they all want to come here.
So maybe we'll end up finding out Danny Dimes has decided to sign 2-year deal for $20 million a year. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen, but 10B, as they like to say, you never know. Plenty of high school hockey coverage here, not only on KFAN Plus all day today, all 4 games. Zach Halverson, Dan Ryan with the call. We did a listen, and maybe we'll do another one. Earlier game today, it was a 5-0 win. Stilly beat Andy. Right now, St. Thomas Academy, with 8:40 to go in the first period, they have a 1-0 lead over Shakopee. We might do a live listening. Here's one right here.
Circle through the slot, bounces off the corner boards and high off the glass, down the ice. It will not go for an icing. Took a weird hop off the glass and then just died as it returned to the ice, and that will negate any icing opportunity. Patch Cronin for St. Thomas Academy picks up a long pass, broken up by O'Neill, and he'll work it back in for the Sabres. Landon Hull out there as well for the Sabres as the Cadets work it out through center. Nico Russ will battle with the aforementioned Landon Hull. Puck came free, and the Sabres able to break it out. Up the ice is Seeger. Got to the circle, had it poked off his stick, went backwards.
How many games, Timothy, does in a high school hockey regular season?
25 regular season.
Did I read that right? I must have misread that. There was a kid for Shakopee that had 47 goals this season. That can't be right, can it?
It can be right, I guess, yeah.
47 goals in
impressive.
25. That's really impressive.
That might have been including the 3 section games too, so it might have gone up to 28. But
let me ask you something. How many goals did you score in your high school career? Do you know?
Not that many.
But you did put the biscuit in the basket.
Well, I was a defensive defenseman, so I did not score a lot.
You were a defensive defenseman.
I would say, I think if you included my sophomore year of junior varsity, I think I scored 8 in 3 years.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Did you play the power play?
Yes. Well, yeah, my senior year.
Booming slap shot at the point?
I would not go that far, no.
I bet you had a booming slap shot.
I was more of a passer than a shooter.
Could you do me a favor? Could you find any video of your high school days? Because, we're recruiting for our boot hockey team. The Clowns is what we used to call ourselves. We're going to come back with the name The Clowns. We're going to do it. We're going to get a logo for our uniforms. We're going to get uniforms. We want to return all of us. We're all in our 60s.
I was on Cable 12 a couple times. I got to be in the archive somewhere.
Because we'd like to, we want to see if we want to extend an offer for you for a tryout. Because we want to go back to Coon Rapids Snowflake days 30 years after our first appearance and see if we can win a boot hockey championship. So again, St. Thomas leads 1-0, 6.5 to go. First period. We'll break, come back. We'll welcome the legendary one, Mark Rosen, into the studio. That's next here on The Fan.